The baby shower was picture perfect. Pink balloons, champagne, laughter. Then Marcus made his announcement. "There's someone special I'd like you all to meet," he said, smirking at the entrance. "My ex-wife, Sarah, the woman who couldn't give me children." The guests gasped as Sarah appeared in the doorway. Not alone. 4 identical toddlers in matching outfits walked beside her, each one carrying his eyes, his smile. "Say hello to your sons," she said, her voice steady as steel. The room erupted. What Marcus didn't know was that his perfect revenge had just become his public reckoning, and the beginning of the family he thought he'd never have. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. "I want to invite Sarah to the baby shower," Marcus Johnson said, smiling as he typed on his laptop. "I want her to see everything she missed out on." His best friend James Wilson looked up from his coffee, eyes wide with concern. "Sarah? Your ex-wife? That's a terrible idea, Marcus." It was a bright Tuesday morning in Atlanta, Georgia. Marcus sat in his large corner office at Peachtree Financial, where he worked as an investment banker. The glass windows offered a perfect view of the city skyline. On his desk stood a framed photo of his beautiful wife Amber, her stomach round with their baby girl, due in 3 months. "Why not?" Marcus asked, leaning back in his expensive leather chair. "It's the perfect opportunity to show her what a real family looks like." James shook his head. "It's been 3 years since your divorce. Why do you still need to hurt her?" Marcus looked down at the guest list for his baby shower, scheduled for the following month at the Grand Atlanta Hotel. The event would be everything his pregnant wife Amber deserved. Expensive decorations, gourmet food, and all their important friends in attendance. "Sarah couldn't give me children," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "Everyone knows that's why I left her. Now I have a beautiful wife who's pregnant with my daughter. Sarah should see what she couldn't provide." After James left, Marcus pulled out an invitation card with gold trim. He wrote Sarah's name and address with careful penmanship, adding a personal note at the bottom. "Come see what a real family looks like." He smiled as he sealed the envelope, imagining Sarah's face when she saw his pregnant wife. 1 week later in Boston, Sarah Williams opened her mailbox outside her townhouse in the Beacon Hill neighborhood. Among the bills and advertisements was a cream-colored envelope with Atlanta postage. She recognized the handwriting immediately. Inside her warm living room, Sarah sat on her couch and opened the envelope. The invitation was elegant, a baby shower for Marcus and Amber Johnson to be held at the Grand Atlanta Hotel, but it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made her pause. "Come see what a real family looks like." Sarah didn't cry. She didn't tear up the invitation. Instead, she looked toward her living room doorway where 4 identical little boys played with building blocks on the carpet. "Michael, be careful with your brother's tower," she called gently to one of the boys. All 4 looked up at the same time, their faces mirror images of each other. They had the same dark hair, the same brown eyes, and the same dimples when they smiled. Marcus's dimples. Sarah's best friend, Lisa Cooper, arrived 30 minutes later, letting herself in with her spare key. "I brought lunch," Lisa said, holding up a paper bag. She stopped when she saw the invitation on the coffee table. "What's that?" Sarah handed it to her. "Marcus invited me to his baby shower." Lisa read the invitation, her eyes widening at the handwritten note. "This is cruel, even for him." "Are you okay?" Sarah smiled, watching her boys play. "I'm fine. Actually, I think I'll go." "You'll what?" Lisa nearly dropped the bag of food. "Why would you put yourself through that?" Sarah picked up the invitation again. "Marcus left me 3 years ago because I couldn't have children. He told everyone that was the reason. He humiliated me." "I remember," Lisa said gently. "But why?" "What he doesn't know," Sarah continued, "is that our last round of IVF worked. 6 months after our divorce was final, I used one of our stored embryos. The four little boys giggled as they knocked down a tower of blocks. The doctor said there was a small chance of multiple births with IVF. I got quadruplets, 4 identical boys. Lisa looked from Sarah to the children. And Marcus has no idea? None. I moved to Boston for my job at Massachusetts General. I never told him. After the way he treated me, the things he said to our friends. Sarah's voice trailed off. So you're going to the baby shower to tell him? Sarah nodded. It's time he knows about his sons. Lisa watched the 4 boys playing, their movements perfectly synchronized. He's going to be shocked. That's what I'm counting on, Sarah said. The next morning, Marcus entered the bedroom of his Buckhead mansion where Amber was resting in bed, her hand on her pregnant belly. "Morning, beautiful," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. Amber smiled, her long blonde hair spread across the pillow. "Did you finish the guest list for the shower?" "All done. I sent the last invitation yesterday." Amber reached for her glass of water. "I still think 50 people is too many, but my mother insists it needs to be a big event." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "The Johnson Reynolds baby deserves the best. Your parents agree." Amber tilted her head, studying his face. "You seem extra happy today. Did something good happen at work?" "So, just excited about the shower," Marcus said. "It's going to be perfect." Later that day, Marcus met James for lunch at an expensive steakhouse in downtown Atlanta. "I sent the invitation to Sarah," Marcus announced as they were served their meals. James put down his fork. "You actually did it? I thought you might reconsider." "Why would I? This is my moment to show everyone I made the right choice. Sarah couldn't have children. Amber is giving me a daughter. It's vindication." "It's cruel," James said quietly. "Sarah was your wife for 7 years. You loved her once." Marcus cut his steak with precise movements. "That was before I knew she couldn't fulfill her most basic purpose as a woman." James winced. "Do you hear yourself? This isn't about Sarah anymore. It's about who you've become." "Save the lecture," Marcus said. "Sarah will see my perfect life, my perfect wife, and my soon-to-be perfect daughter. That's all that matters." True. In Boston, Sarah sat at her kitchen table with her phone in hand, her brother Ryan's voice coming through the speaker. "You're going to do what?" Ryan asked, his military training evident in his controlled tone. "I'm going to attend Marcus's baby shower," Sarah repeated. "And I want you to come with me." "To confront him about the boys?" Sarah looked at her sons eating lunch at the small table. "Yes, it's time he knows he has 4 children. After what he did to you, I'm surprised you'd give him the satisfaction of knowing about them at all." "This isn't about satisfaction, Ryan. It's about truth. And the boys deserve to know their father, even if he's not the man I thought he was." Ryan was silent for a moment. "When is this shower?" 3 weeks from Saturday. I've already contacted a photographer in Atlanta. Her name is Jessica Torres. She'll document everything." "You want photos of this confrontation?" "I want proof of his reaction. After what he put me through, I want evidence of the moment he learns the truth." After ending the call, Sarah dialed her parents' number. "Mom, can you watch the boys for a weekend? I need to go to Atlanta." She paused. It's time Marcus knew about his sons. That evening, Amber found the guest list on Marcus's desk. She scrolled through the names until one caught her eye. "Marcus," she called, walking into the living room where he sat watching television. "Why is your ex-wife's name on our baby shower guest list?" Marcus looked up, his expression carefully neutral. "I thought it would be nice to include her." "Nice?" Amber's voice rose slightly. "How is inviting your ex-wife to our baby shower nice?" "Sarah and I shared a lot of years together. I thought—" "The truth, Marcus," Amber interrupted. "We both know you didn't invite her to be nice." Marcus's smile faded. "Fine. I want her to see what she missed out on, what she couldn't give me." Amber placed her hands on her pregnant belly protectively. "You're using our baby, using me, to hurt someone else?" "It's not like that," Marcus protested. "It's exactly like that. Amber said quietly. "This should be about celebrating our daughter, not punishing your ex-wife." She turned to leave the room, then paused. "What happened to you, Marcus? Who are you becoming?" As she walked away, Marcus's phone buzzed with a notification. Sarah Williams had RSVP'd yes to the baby shower. Marcus smiled, unaware that in 3 weeks, his perfect world would shatter completely. Sarah placed the invitation on her bedside table and zipped her suitcase closed. The morning sun streamed through the windows of her Beacon Hill townhouse as she checked her watch one last time. "Are you really sure about this?" asked Ryan, standing in the doorway with his military posture. Her brother's short haircut and serious expression reflected his years in the Marine Corps. "I've never been more sure of anything," Sarah replied, looking at the 4 small backpacks lined up by the door. "The boys are ready. Mom and Dad will be here in 20 minutes to pick them up." Ryan picked up her suitcase. "Our flight leaves at 10:30. We should get going." Downstairs, the quadruplets sat in a row on the couch, each wearing identical blue sweaters. Sarah knelt in front of them. "Mommy has to go on a trip with Uncle Ryan," she said gently. "You're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa at their house in Cambridge for a few days. Will you bring us presents?" asked Mark, the most talkative of the 4. Sarah smiled. "Of course I will." The doorbell rang and Sarah's parents entered the house. Her mother, Jennifer, immediately began hugging each boy. "There are my sweet grandsons," she exclaimed while her husband Robert loaded the boys' backpacks into their car. Jennifer pulled Sarah aside while Ryan helped the boys with their jackets. "Are you absolutely sure this is the right thing to do?" "Marcus could make your life difficult once he knows about the boys." "He already made my life difficult," Sarah said quietly. "But the boys deserve to know their father, and he deserves to know about them. Even if I'm doing it in a way that might embarrass him." Robert placed his hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Just be careful, sweetheart. Men like Marcus don't like to be surprised." After kissing each boy goodbye, Sarah watched her parents drive away with her children. The house felt suddenly quiet. "Our taxi is here," Ryan said, checking his phone. "Time to go to Atlanta." On the flight from Boston Logan International Airport, Sarah stared out the window at the clouds below. Ryan sat beside her, reading a magazine. "What if I'm doing this for the wrong reasons?" Sarah asked suddenly. "What if this is just about getting back at Marcus?" Ryan put down his magazine. "Is it?" Sarah sighed. "Part of me wants to see his face when he realizes he has 4 sons. After everything he said about me not being able to have children." She paused. "But another part of me knows the boys will ask about their father someday. They deserve the truth." "Marcus deserves nothing," Ryan said firmly, "but those boys deserve to know their father. And he should acknowledge them, even if it's painful for him." The flight attendant offered them drinks. After she left, Sarah pulled out her phone and looked at pictures of her sons. "What will I tell them when they're older? That their father left me because he thought I couldn't have children? That I ambushed him with the truth at his baby shower for his new wife?" Ryan took her hand. "You'll tell them the truth. That you did the best you could in a difficult situation." Sarah nodded, tucking her phone away. "I hope so." Thus, in Atlanta, Marcus Johnson stood in the Grand Atlanta Hotel's Crystal Ballroom, watching the staff arrange tables and chairs. The event planner, Olivia Chen, approached him with a clipboard. "Mr. Johnson, we've confirmed the pink rose centerpieces for all 20 tables. The dessert table will be against the north wall with the custom cake as the centerpiece." Marcus nodded, barely listening. He checked his phone again for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Is everything all right, sir?" Olivia asked. "Yes, fine," Marcus replied. "Just confirming RSVPs." The truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's response. She had accepted his invitation with no comment, no emotion. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. His wife, Amber, entered the ballroom, her pink dress stretched over her pregnant belly. She walked slowly toward him, one hand supporting her back. "The room looks beautiful," she said, looking around. "Mom wants to know if we should put the gift table near the entrance or by the windows." "Whatever you think is best," Marcus said, still looking at his phone. Amber frowned. "Are you even listening to me?" Marcus looked up. "Of course. Gift table. Windows would be fine." "This is the third time today I've caught you checking for messages from her," Amber said quietly. "I still can't believe you invited your ex-wife to our baby shower." "It's not a big deal," Marcus insisted. "It is to me." Amber turned and walked away, her movements slow and careful. Marcus sighed and followed her out of the ballroom. "Amber, wait." Later that afternoon, Amber sat in her mother's living room in the Reynolds family estate in Buckhead. The mansion had been her childhood home, and she still found comfort in the familiar surroundings. "I don't understand why he invited her," Amber said, sipping her herbal tea. "It's like I'm just a prop in some game between them." Eleanor Reynolds, elegant in her expensive clothing, patted her daughter's hand. "Men can be petty, darling, especially when their ego is involved. I wanted this shower to be about our baby, about our family." Amber placed her hand on her stomach. "Not about his ex-wife." "Have you told Marcus how you feel?" Eleanor asked. "I've tried. He just dismisses my concerns." Amber set down her cup. "Sometimes I wonder if he married me because he loves me or because I could give him what Sarah couldn't." Eleanor's face hardened. "If that's true, he doesn't deserve you." At a downtown Atlanta restaurant, Marcus met his friend James for a late lunch. "She's coming," Marcus announced as soon as they sat down. Sarah RSVP'd yes to the shower. James shook his head. "I still think this is a terrible idea. It's not too late to uninvite her." "Why would I do that? This is perfect." "Perfect for who?" James asked. "Not for Amber, who's 6 months pregnant and shouldn't be dealing with this stress. Not for your guests, who will feel uncomfortable. And not for Sarah, who you're deliberately trying to hurt." Marcus took a drink of water. "Sarah made her choice. She knew how important having children was to me." "That's not how bodies work, Marcus. She didn't choose to have fertility issues. We spent 3 years trying. 3 years of treatments, doctors, disappointments." James leaned forward. "And then you left her. You didn't just leave her. You humiliated her. You told everyone she failed as a woman because she couldn't have children." "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said," James replied firmly. "I was there, remember? At the Palmers' dinner party when you announced to everyone that you were divorcing Sarah because she couldn't fulfill her basic purpose as your wife." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I was upset." "You were cruel," James said. "And now you're being cruel again by inviting her to your baby shower." "This will backfire, Marcus. I'm asking you one more time to reconsider." Marcus checked his phone, ignoring his friend's warning. "She's already on her way to Atlanta." Sarah and Ryan checked into their downtown Atlanta hotel room at 4 o'clock that afternoon. The room had 2 beds and a view of the city skyline. "I've arranged to meet with the photographer at 6, Sarah said, unpacking her suitcase. "Her name is Jessica Torres. She understands what we're doing and will be discreet." Ryan nodded, placing his bag on the second bed. "I contacted my buddy Michael. He works security here in Atlanta now. He'll have 2 guys with us tomorrow, just in case Marcus reacts badly." Sarah paused. "Do you think he might get violent?" "I don't think so, but better safe than sorry. Michael and his team will stay in the background unless needed." Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and called her parents. When her mother answered, she put the phone on speaker. "We're here," Sarah said. "How are the boys?" "They're wonderful," Jennifer replied. "They're in the backyard with Grandpa right now, building a fort with sticks." "Can I talk to them?" "Of course. Hold on." Sarah heard her mother calling the boys. Then suddenly, 4 excited voices filled the phone. "Mommy!" "We found bugs," Matthew exclaimed. "And a frog," added Malcolm. "A real frog?" Sarah asked, smiling at Ryan. "It was green and jumpy," Mark explained. Michael, the quietest of the four, finally spoke. "When are you coming home, Mommy?" Sarah's heart tightened. "In a few days, sweetheart." "Are you being good for Grandma and Grandpa?" "Yes!" they all shouted in unison. After saying goodbye, Sarah ended the call and looked at Ryan. "Hearing their voices makes me more certain. They deserve to know their father, and Marcus deserves to know them, even if it happens in a way that embarrasses him." Across town, Marcus sat at a restaurant table with his mother Elizabeth and his wife Amber. Elizabeth Johnson was in her 60s with elegant silver hair and Marcus's same confident posture. "I can't believe I'm finally going to be a grandmother," Elizabeth said, smiling at Amber. "I've waited so long for this moment." Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "We're very excited," Amber said politely, though her tone was cooler than usual. "I remember when you and Sarah were trying," Elizabeth continued, unaware of the tension her words created. "It was so difficult watching you both struggle." Marcus cleared his throat. "Let's not talk about Sarah, Mother." Elizabeth looked surprised. "I was just saying how happy I am that you're finally becoming a father. It's what you always wanted." "Speaking of the shower tomorrow," Amber interrupted, "do you have your speech ready, Elizabeth, as the grandmother-to-be?" "Of course, dear. I wouldn't miss this opportunity for anything in the world." Elizabeth reached across the table and patted Amber's hand. "My first grandchild. It's a dream come true." Marcus stared at his plate, saying nothing. The weight of his mother's words hung in the air between them. "Did you invite many of your old friends, Marcus?" Elizabeth asked. "People who knew you and Sarah?" "Some," Marcus replied vaguely. "I'm sure Sarah would be happy for you," Elizabeth said. "Despite everything, she always wanted you to be happy." Marcus looked up, meeting his mother's eyes. "Sarah wouldn't come to the shower, Mother. She wouldn't be able to handle seeing us happy." It was the first direct lie he had told about the situation, and it left a bitter taste in his mouth. As he took a drink of water, his phone vibrated with a notification. It was from Sarah. "Looking forward to tomorrow. I have some surprising news to share." Marcus stared at his phone screen, reading Sarah's message again. "Surprising news?" he muttered, showing his wife and mother the text. Amber's face paled. "What does that mean?" "Nothing," Marcus said quickly. "She's just trying to get attention." Elizabeth looked between them with confusion. "Sarah is texting you? I thought you said she wouldn't come to the shower." Marcus put his phone away. "It's complicated, Mother." The restaurant suddenly felt too small, too crowded. Marcus excused himself and stepped outside into the cool Atlanta evening. His mind raced with possibilities. What surprising news could Sarah possibly have? The next morning, Sarah woke early in her hotel room. She needed time alone to think. Ryan was still asleep in the other bed when she quietly dressed and left a note saying she'd be at Piedmont Park. The spring air was crisp as Sarah walked along the paths of Atlanta's most famous park. Joggers passed by. Families spread blankets on the grass. She found an empty bench overlooking the lake and sat down. After a few minutes, she took out her phone and called David Chen, the pediatrician she'd been dating in Boston for the past 6 months. "Hey," she said when he answered. "Just wanted to hear a friendly voice." "How's Atlanta?" David asked. His voice was warm, comforting, beautiful. Weird to be back. Sarah watched a family with small children feed ducks by the water. "The baby shower is tomorrow." "Are you ready?" Sarah sighed. "I think so. But David, I keep asking myself if I'm doing this for the right reasons." "What do you mean?" "Am I doing this for the boys or to hurt Marcus?" She closed her eyes. "Sometimes I'm not sure anymore." David was quiet for a moment. "Maybe it's both. That doesn't make it wrong." "He hurt me so badly," Sarah whispered. "The things he said about me not being able to have children. And now you have 4 beautiful boys who look exactly like him." David said. That would be hard for anyone to process. I want him to know his sons. I want my sons to know their father, but I also want Marcus to feel the pain I felt when he humiliated me. Sarah wiped a tear from her cheek. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you human, David replied. Just remember who you are, Sarah. Don't let this change you. After ending the call, Sarah sat watching the water for a long time. In a coffee shop across town, Ryan met with Michael Torres, his former Marine Corps buddy, who now worked in private security in Atlanta. Thanks for meeting me on short notice, Ryan said, shaking Michael's hand. This means a lot. Michael nodded. You said your sister needs backup for some kind of confrontation? Yeah. Ryan explained the situation. Sarah's ex-husband Marcus, the quadruplets, and the baby shower planned for tomorrow. We don't think Marcus will get violent, but he might not react well to finding out he has 4 kids he never knew about. Michael whistled softly. That's heavy. And you want security there just in case? 3 guys should be enough. Just stay in the background unless needed. No problem. I'll bring Jake and Carlos. We'll wear suits, blend in with the guests. No one will know we're there unless there's trouble. Ryan relaxed slightly. Perfect. I appreciate this. So the ex-husband has no idea about the kids? None at all? None. Sarah moved to Boston right after the divorce was final. When she found out the IVF worked, she decided to raise the boys on her own. Michael shook his head. And now she's going to tell him at his baby shower for his new wife? That's cold. He deserves it, Ryan said firmly. You should have seen what he did to my sister. At the Reynolds estate in Buckhead, Amber sat in the living room surrounded by baby shower gifts that had arrived early. Her mother helped her open each box, writing down who sent what for thank you cards later. This one is from your cousin Stephanie, Eleanor said, handing Amber a beautifully wrapped package. Amber opened it to find a pink baby blanket. It's beautiful, she said, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. What's wrong, darling? Eleanor asked. Nothing, just tired. It's that woman coming tomorrow, isn't it, Marcus's ex-wife? Amber nodded. I don't understand why he invited her. It's so strange. Eleanor handed her another package. This one doesn't have a card attached. Amber unwrapped it to find a small box. Inside were 4 identical blue baby onesies, each exactly the same size. That's odd, she said, holding them up. Eleanor frowned. Who would send blue clothes? Everyone knows you're having a girl. Amber looked at the shipping label. S. Williams. That's Sarah's name. Marcus's ex-wife sent you baby clothes? Blue ones? I don't understand, Amber said, looking confused. Is this some kind of message? Later that evening, Amber showed the onesies to Marcus. Why would she send these? What does it mean? Marcus held one of the tiny blue outfits, his face showing confusion. It's nothing. She's just being petty. 4 identical blue onesies isn't nothing, Marcus. Just forget about it, he said, though the gift had clearly unsettled him. She's trying to get under our skin before the shower. That night, Marcus's best friend James hosted a surprise dad chelor party at the exclusive Terminus Club in downtown Atlanta. 12 of Marcus's friends and colleagues gathered in a private room with expensive whiskey and cigars. To fatherhood, James toasted, raising his glass. Marcus Johnson is finally going to be a dad? Everyone cheered and drank. Marcus smiled, but his mind was elsewhere. 3 hours later, most of the guests had left. Only Marcus and James remained sitting in leather chairs with half-empty glasses. What's really going on with you? James asked. You've been distracted all night. Marcus drained his glass. Sarah's coming tomorrow. I know, I still think that's a mistake. She sent Amber 4 blue baby onesies, identical ones. James frowned. What? Why? I don't know. Marcus poured himself more whiskey. And she texted me saying she has surprising news to share. What news could she possibly have? Marcus stared into his glass. Nothing that matters now. Are you sure this is about Sarah, or is it about you? James asked carefully. About becoming a father? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, are you ready for this? A baby changes everything. Marcus laughed bitterly. You think I don't know that? It's all I ever wanted. It's why I left Sarah. Was it? James asked quietly. Or did you leave because it was easier than facing disappointment? What do you want me to say? Marcus's voice rose. That I regret how I treated her? That sometimes I wake up at night wondering if I made a mistake? That I'm terrified of failing as a father? James said nothing, but discreetly pressed record on his phone, disturbed by his friend's outburst. I did what I had to do, Marcus continued. Sarah couldn't give me children. Amber could. It's that simple. Life isn't simple, Marcus, neither are people. Tomorrow, Sarah will see exactly what she missed out on, Marcus said, his words slightly slurred from the alcohol. She'll see my perfect wife, my perfect life, and know that leaving her was the best decision I ever made. James shook his head sadly. I hope it brings you the peace you're looking for. Back at the hotel, Sarah sat on her bed reviewing photos of her boys on her phone. Ryan watched her from the other bed. I've been thinking about what to say tomorrow, Sarah said. I need to stay calm and dignified. No matter how Marcus reacts, Ryan agreed. Sarah nodded. I'll introduce the boys first. Then explain they're his sons from our last IVF attempt. He'll be shocked. He'll probably demand a DNA test, Sarah said. I'm prepared for that. I've already contacted a lab in Atlanta. Ryan studied his sister's face. Are you nervous? Terrified, she admitted, but also ready. It's time for the truth. She showed Ryan a photo on her phone. This is my favorite picture of all 4 boys together. They're wearing the outfits I want them to wear tomorrow. Ryan looked at the photo of his 4 identical nephews, all with Marcus's distinctive dimples and eyes. There's no way he can deny they're his. The resemblance is too strong. That's what I'm counting on, Sarah said. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, Sarah's parents, Robert and Jennifer Williams, prepared for bed in their large colonial home. In the guest room, 4 small toddler beds were arranged in a row, each occupied by one of the quadruplets. Do you think they understand any of this? Robert asked his wife as they peeked in on the sleeping boys. Jennifer shook her head. They're only 2. They know they're going on an airplane tomorrow to see their mommy, that's all. I worry about how this will affect them, Robert said. Seeing Marcus for the first time. Being part of this confrontation. They're too young to remember it, Jennifer said. And Sarah needs to do this. For herself and for the boys. Robert gently closed the door to the boys' room. I just hope Marcus doesn't try to cause trouble after he finds out. He could demand custody, visitation. One bridge at a time, Jennifer said. First, he needs to know they exist. I'll never forget the look on Sarah's face when she told us she was pregnant, Robert said. 6 months after the divorce was final, she was terrified. And now look at her, Jennifer smiled. She's raised 4 beautiful boys on her own for 2 years. She's stronger than she knows. Tomorrow will test that strength, Robert said. I just hope she's ready. As they turned out their bedroom light, Robert's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Boys all packed? Robert replied, all set. Flight leaves at 9:30. We'll be in Atlanta by noon. In her hotel room, Sarah read her father's message and took a deep breath. In less than 24 hours, everything would change. She looked one last time at the invitation with Marcus's handwritten note. Come see what a real family looks like. Sarah turned off her light and whispered into the darkness, Oh, I will, Marcus. I absolutely will. Sarah woke up at 7 o'clock on the morning of the baby shower. She opened the hotel room curtains to reveal a bright Atlanta spring day. The sky was perfectly blue without a single cloud. Good morning, Ryan said, already dressed in his navy suit. Mom texted. Their plane is on schedule to land at 11:30. Sarah nodded, checking her own phone. The photographer will meet us at the hotel at 1 o'clock. The shower starts at 2. Are you ready for this? Ryan asked. Sarah took a deep breath. I've been preparing for this moment for 2 years. At the Grand Atlanta Hotel, event planner Olivia Chen directed her staff as they transformed the crystal ballroom. Pink roses filled crystal vases on every table. A champagne fountain bubbled at the center of the room. Along the north wall, a dessert table featured cookies shaped like baby rattles and a 3-tier cake topped with a sugar sculpture of a baby girl. The chairs need to be exactly 1 foot apart, Olivia instructed. Mrs. Reynolds was very specific about the spacing. One of the staff approached her. Ms. Chen, Mr. Johnson is here. He wants to inspect the room. Olivia nodded. Of course. Send him in. Marcus entered the ballroom at 9:15, his expensive suit perfectly tailored to his athletic frame. His eyes scanned the room critically. Is everything to your satisfaction, Mr. Johnson? Olivia asked. Move that table, Marcus said, pointing to a small table near the entrance. I want a clear view of the door from the main table. Olivia raised an eyebrow but nodded to her staff. Of course. Marcus walked around the room, checking every detail. And the photographer? Will arrive at 1:30, as requested. Good. Marcus positioned himself by the main table, looking toward the entrance. He seemed to be mentally rehearsing something, his eyes fixed on the doorway. Is there anything else you need, Mr. Johnson? Olivia asked. Marcus checked his watch. No, everything needs to be perfect today, that's all. Across town, at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, Jennifer and Robert Williams guided 4 excited toddlers through the terminal. Hold Grandpa's hand, Michael, Jennifer said, keeping a firm grip on Malcolm and Matthew. Mark, stay close to me. Robert looked down at the small boy holding his hand. Are you excited to see Mommy? Michael nodded, his dark eyes so much like Marcus's, wide with excitement. We go on airplane. Yes, we did, Robert said gently. And now we're going to see Mommy. Jennifer checked her phone. Sarah says to take a taxi directly to the hotel. They're in room 412. Are we sure this is a good idea? Robert asked quietly, looking at the 4 identical boys in their matching outfits. Bringing them to this shower? It's too late to change the plan now, Jennifer replied. Sarah needs to do this, and she needs our support. At 11 o'clock, guests began arriving at the Reynolds estate to carpool to the hotel. Eleanor Reynolds greeted each person warmly, though her smile seemed slightly strained. Welcome, Patricia, she said to a stylishly dressed woman. We're so pleased you could join us for Amber's special day. I wouldn't miss it, Patricia replied. How is the mother-to-be feeling? Wonderful, Eleanor lied smoothly. Just getting ready upstairs. In reality, Amber was sitting on her childhood bed, staring out the window. Her mother knocked gently before entering. Darling, people are arriving. Are you nearly ready? Amber turned. Her pink maternity dress was beautiful, but her eyes were sad. Why did he have to invite her, Mom? Why did he have to make today about his ex-wife? Eleanor sat beside her daughter. Men can be incredibly stupid sometimes, especially when their pride is involved. She took Amber's hand. But today is about you and your baby girl. Don't let Marcus or his ex-wife take that away from you. Amber nodded, placing her hand on her pregnant belly. You're right. This is my day. Our daughter's day. Exactly, Eleanor said, helping Amber to her feet. Now let's go show everyone how wonderful you look. At the hotel, Ryan met with Michael Torres and 2 other security professionals in the lobby. All 3 men wore dark suits and earpieces. Here's how we'll position ourselves, Michael said, showing Ryan a diagram of the ballroom. Carlos will be by the main entrance. Jake will be near the bar. I'll stay close to Sarah. If Johnson gets aggressive, we'll intervene immediately. Ryan nodded. I don't think he'll get physical, but he might get very angry. "We're prepared either way," Michael assured him. "Your sister and her kids will be safe." In their hotel room, Sarah sat with photographer Jessica Torres, reviewing the plan one last time. "I want natural shots," Sarah explained. "Nothing staged or obvious. And when the boys come in, I want you to capture Marcus's face. That's the most important moment." Jessica nodded, checking her cameras. "I understand. I'll be discreet but thorough." A knock on the door interrupted them. Ryan entered with Jennifer, Robert, and 4 excited little boys who immediately ran to Sarah. "Mommy!" they cried in unison, wrapping their small arms around her legs. Sarah knelt down, hugging each one. "I missed you so much. Did you have fun with Grandma and Grandpa?" "We went on a big airplane," Mark announced proudly. "And had cookies," added Matthew. Sarah looked up at her parents. "Thank you for bringing them." Jennifer nodded, her expression serious. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" Sarah stood, keeping her hands on her son's shoulders. "Yes, it's time." Jessica smiled at the boys. "They look exactly like their father." "That's what I'm counting on," Sarah said quietly. At 1 o'clock, the crystal ballroom was nearly ready. Marcus stood by the window, watching as cars pulled into the hotel parking lot. James approached him, 2 glasses of water in hand. "Last chance to reconsider," James said, offering Marcus a glass. Marcus took it, his eyes never leaving the window. "Reconsider what?" "This whole thing. Inviting Sarah, using your baby shower as some kind of revenge." "It's not revenge," Marcus said. "It's closure." James shook his head. "This isn't how you get closure, Marcus. This is how you create more pain." "She deserves it." "Does Amber?" James asked quietly. "Does your unborn daughter deserve to have her celebration turned into this spectacle?" For a moment, doubt flickered across Marcus's face. Then his expression hardened. "Sarah made her choice years ago." "So did you," James reminded him. "You left her when she was at her most vulnerable." "She couldn't give me children. And yet you've invited her to celebrate the child you're having with another woman. Don't you see how cruel that is?" Marcus turned away from the window. "I don't need a lecture right now, James. Either support me or leave." James sighed. "I'll always be your friend, Marcus. But that means telling you when you're making a mistake. And this is a huge mistake." By 1:30, the ballroom was filling with guests. Colleagues from Peachtree Financial congratulated Marcus with handshakes and backslaps. Amber's friends from her interior design firm clustered around her, admiring her pink dress and touching her pregnant belly. Eleanor Reynolds supervised the gifts table while Thomas Reynolds, Amber's father, chatted with business associates near the bar. At 1:45, Amber's mother helped her into a decorated chair at the center of the room. Guests began taking their seats at the surrounding tables. Marcus stood near the entrance, checking his watch repeatedly. His mother, Elizabeth, approached him. "The room looks beautiful," she said. "Amber seems happy." "Yes," Marcus replied, distracted. Elizabeth followed his gaze to the doorway. "Are you expecting someone else?" Before Marcus could answer, James appeared at his side. "It's time to start, Marcus." "Everyone's waiting." Marcus nodded, taking his place beside Amber's chair. He leaned down and kissed her cheek mechanically. Her smile in response was equally forced. The photographer Amber's mother had hired began taking pictures of the couple. Eleanor Reynolds clinked a glass for attention. "Welcome, everyone! We're so happy you could join us to celebrate Amber and Marcus's baby girl." The guests applauded. Amber smiled and waved. Marcus continued to watch the door. In the elevator heading up to their room, Sarah checked her appearance one last time in the mirrored wall. Her simple blue dress was elegant but understated. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup minimal. "The boy's hair needs fixing," Jennifer said, trying to smooth down Malcolm's cowlick. "It's fine, Mom," Sarah said. "I want them to look natural." The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. Sarah turned to her family. "Wait here with the boys. I'll go in first." Alone. When I text you, Ryan, bring them in. Ryan nodded. We'll be ready. Sarah hugged each of her sons. Mommy will see you very soon, okay? Be good for Uncle Ryan and Grandma and Grandpa. The boys nodded solemnly, though they clearly didn't understand the significance of the moment. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at her watch. It was exactly 2 o'clock. It's time, she said. She stepped back into the elevator alone, pressing the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of her 4 little boys standing with her family. Marcus's eyes looking back at her from 4 identical faces. The elevator descended, and Sarah straightened her shoulders. In minutes, Marcus Johnson's perfect world would change forever. The elevator doors opened, and Sarah stepped into the hotel lobby. She could hear music and voices coming from the crystal ballroom. Through the partially open doors, she glimpsed pink decorations and guests in fancy clothes. Sarah paused to send a text message to Ryan. I'm going in. Wait 5 minutes, then bring them down. Taking a deep breath, she smoothed her blue dress and walked toward the ballroom entrance. The hotel staff member at the door checked her name against the guest list. Sarah Williams? He confirmed. Yes, she replied. Welcome to the Johnson Reynolds baby shower. The noise in the room dimmed as she entered. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Sarah felt 50 pairs of eyes watching her, but she kept her focus straight ahead. Marcus stood near the main table, his back to the entrance. When he noticed the sudden quiet, he turned around. His eyes locked with Sarah's, and a smile spread across his face. Not a friendly smile, but one of triumph. The room remained silent as Marcus walked toward her, glass of champagne in hand. Sarah, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You made it. Hello, Marcus, she replied calmly. Marcus looked around the room, clearly enjoying the attention. He raised his glass and clinked it with a fork. Everyone, he announced, I'd like you to welcome my ex-wife Sarah, the woman who couldn't give me children. Gasps echoed through the room. Amber, sitting in her decorated chair, turned bright red with embarrassment. Her mother, Eleanor, put a protective hand on her shoulder. Sarah maintained her composure. She smiled politely and addressed the room. Hello, everyone. Congratulations, Marcus and Amber. Marcus's smile grew wider, clearly pleased with Sarah's discomfort. Thank you for coming to see what a real family looks like. Sarah looked directly into his eyes. Actually, Marcus, I wanted to ask you something. Do you remember those embryos we created during our marriage? The ones from our last round of IVF? Marcus's smile faltered slightly. What about them? Do you ever wonder what happened to them? Marcus shook his head dismissively. They were destroyed after the divorce, I assume. No, Sarah said quietly. They weren't. She turned toward the ballroom entrance and nodded. Everyone followed her gaze as Ryan appeared in the doorway, holding the hands of 2 small boys. Behind him, Sarah's parents each held the hand of another identical boy. 4 identical little boys in matching blue outfits walked into the room. They had dark hair, brown eyes, and Marcus's distinctive dimples when they smiled. There was no mistaking whose children they were. The photographer Jessica moved quietly through the room, capturing every moment as planned. Marcus, Sarah said clearly, I'd like you to meet Michael, Matthew, Mark, and Malcolm. Your sons. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Marcus stood frozen, his champagne glass nearly slipping from his hand. That's impossible, he whispered. The last round of IVF worked, Sarah continued, her voice steady. But you left before I could tell you. These boys are 2 years old. They're your sons, Marcus. Elizabeth Johnson pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with shock and wonder. She stopped in front of the quadruplets, tears streaming down her face. Oh my God, she whispered, kneeling down to their level. Look at you. You have his eyes, his smile. Michael, the bravest of the 4, stepped forward and touched Elizabeth's cheek. Why are you crying? Elizabeth laughed through her tears. Because I'm so happy to meet you. Marcus still hadn't moved. He stared at the boys, his face pale, his body rigid. Amber struggled to stand from her chair. Her mother helped her up as she stared first at the quadruplets, then at Marcus. You told everyone she couldn't have children, Amber said, her voice breaking. You humiliated her. And all this time... Marcus finally seemed to snap out of his shock. This is ridiculous. This is some kind of trick. It's not a trick, Sarah said. They're your biological sons. I used one of our stored embryos 6 months after our divorce was final. The doctors said there was a small chance of multiple births with IVF. I got quadruplets. The boys looked around curiously at the decorations and people. They were too young to understand the drama unfolding around them. James Wilson watched from across the room, shaking his head sadly. He had warned Marcus this would happen. Not the revelation of children, but that his plan would backfire. Amber's father, Thomas, stepped forward, placing his arm around his daughter's shoulders. I think we need to give everyone some space, he announced to the guests. Perhaps we could take a short break. Guests began to murmur and move toward the exit, eager to escape the uncomfortable situation but reluctant to miss any of the drama. Marcus finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell me? He demanded, stepping closer to Sarah. You had no right to keep this from me. No right? Sarah asked incredulously. You left me, Marcus. You told everyone I was defective because I couldn't have children. You humiliated me. You destroyed our marriage because I couldn't give you what you wanted. That doesn't give you the right to hide my children from me. Elizabeth stood up, positioning herself between Marcus and Sarah. Not now, Marcus. These boys don't need to see you angry. The quadruplets, sensing the tension, moved closer to Sarah. Mark grabbed her hand. Mommy, is that man mad? He asked loudly. It's okay, sweetie, Sarah assured him. This is just a grown-up conversation. Marcus stared at the boy who had spoken. The child was his mirror image, down to the way he tilted his head when asking a question. Amber approached slowly, her hand resting on her pregnant belly. She looked at the 4 little boys, then at Marcus. You told me she was broken, Amber said quietly. You said she couldn't have children. That's why you left her. Marcus turned to Amber. This doesn't change anything between us. And it changes everything, Amber replied. If you lied about this, what else have you lied about? The room had emptied except for the immediate family. Sarah's parents stood protectively near the boys. Ryan positioned himself close to Sarah. James remained by the window, watching silently. The photographer continued to capture every moment. Elizabeth knelt beside the quadruplets again. Would you boys like to meet your grandmother? She asked gently. Are you our grandma? Malcolm asked. Yes, I am, Elizabeth said, tears filling her eyes again. I'm your daddy's mother. Where is our daddy? Matthew asked, looking around the room. All eyes turned to Marcus. For the first time, he seemed genuinely affected. His expression shifted from anger to confusion to something like pain. He started, then stopped. This is impossible. DNA doesn't lie, Marcus, Sarah said. Look at them. They have your eyes, your dimples. Even the way Michael stands with his hands in his pockets, that's you. Marcus took a single step toward the boys, who immediately moved behind Sarah. They don't know you, Sarah explained. They've never met you. Because you kept them from me! Marcus's voice rose again. Because you didn't want them, Sarah shot back. You wanted a child so badly you left me. But when I finally had your children, you were already gone. Marcus ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration the boys unconsciously mimicked as they watched him. This is insane, he muttered. This can't be happening. Amber moved away from him, going to stand near her parents. The distance between them was more than physical. I want a DNA test, Marcus said suddenly, his voice shaking. I need proof these are my children." Sarah nodded calmly. "I thought you might. I've already scheduled one for tomorrow morning at Atlanta Medical Center, 9 o'clock. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "You planned all of this?" "I received your invitation, Marcus," Sarah replied. "Come see what a real family looks like, you wrote. So here I am, with your sons." Elizabeth had managed to coax Malcolm onto her lap. The little boy played with her necklace, completely unaware of the significance of the moment. "4," Marcus whispered. "4 boys." "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "Identical quadruplets. The doctor said the chances were extremely low, but then, you always did beat the odds, didn't you, Marcus?" Marcus looked from the boys to Sarah to Amber, who refused to meet his eyes. His perfectly orchestrated moment of triumph had become his worst nightmare. "I'll be at the medical center tomorrow," he said finally. "We'll settle this once and for all." "It's already settled," Sarah replied. "But if you need scientific proof, that's fine. The boys and I will be there." The quadruplets, growing restless, began to explore the room. Mark picked up a pink balloon. Matthew examined the cake. Michael and Malcolm stayed close to their grandmother, fascinated by her earrings. As Marcus watched his sons, move around the room that was meant to celebrate his unborn daughter, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out to find a text message from Amber. "Don't come home tonight." Marcus stared at his phone, reading Amber's message again. He looked up to see her being led away by her parents, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The baby shower was officially over, though it had barely begun. The few remaining guests whispered in small groups as they gathered their belongings. Eleanor Reynolds approached each person, apologizing quietly and thanking them for coming. The beautiful pink decorations now seemed out of place in the tense atmosphere. "I think we should go," one of Amber's friends whispered to another. "Absolutely." "This is too awkward." Marcus stood alone in the center of the room, watching as his perfectly planned day collapsed around him. James approached cautiously. "Marcus, we should leave," James said quietly. "Give everyone some space." Before Marcus could respond, Thomas Reynolds stormed toward him, his face red with anger. "You!" Thomas pointed a finger at Marcus's chest. "What kind of game are you playing? First you invite your ex-wife to humiliate her, and instead you humiliate my daughter?" "Mr. Reynolds, this isn't what it looks like," Marcus began. "Really? Because it looks like you've been lying to my daughter from day one. It looks like you have 4 children you never told her about." "I didn't know about them," Marcus insisted. "Sarah kept them from me." "And why would she do that?" Thomas asked. "Because you're such a stand-up guy?" Eleanor appeared at her husband's side. "Thomas, please." "Not here. Amber needs us." Thomas nodded curtly. "Stay away from my daughter tonight. She needs time to process this disaster you've created." Marcus watched helplessly as Amber's parents left the ballroom. He turned to find Sarah gathering the quadruplets, who had started to grow restless. "We should go too," Sarah said to her parents and Ryan. "The boys need lunch and a nap." "You're not going anywhere," Marcus said, moving toward her. "Not until we talk about this." Ryan stepped between them. "Back off, Marcus." "These are my sons," Marcus said, his voice rising. "You kept them from me for 2 years." The hotel manager approached, looking concerned. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. We have other guests in the hotel." James intervened. "Maybe we could use a private room? Somewhere to discuss this calmly?" The manager nodded. "We have a conference room available. Please follow me." Minutes later, they had relocated to a small conference room down the hall. The quadruplets sat at one end of the long table, coloring on paper the hotel staff had provided. Sarah, her parents, and Ryan sat near the boys. Marcus, James, and Elizabeth took seats at the opposite end. The photographer had been asked to wait outside. "How could you do this?" Marcus demanded once the door closed. "How could you keep my children from me for 2 years?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "After the way you left me?" After you told everyone I was defective because I couldn't have children? You think I felt safe telling you I was pregnant? You had no right. I had every right, Sarah interrupted. You abandoned me, Marcus. You humiliated me. You made me feel worthless because I couldn't give you children. Then I found out I was pregnant with 4 of your sons. You should have told me, Marcus insisted. Why? So you could use them to boost your ego? So you could parade them around like trophies? Marcus slammed his hand on the table. They're my children. The sudden noise startled the boys. Mark began to cry. Sarah immediately went to comfort him. This is exactly why, she said, holding the frightened boy. Look at yourself, Marcus. You're not thinking about them. You're thinking about you. Elizabeth moved to the boy's end of the table. May I help? She asked Sarah gently. After a moment's hesitation, Sarah nodded. Elizabeth sat beside Malcolm, who was watching his brother cry. Hello, she said softly. I'm your grandmother. Would you like to draw a picture with me? Malcolm nodded, handing her a blue crayon. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears as she began to color with her grandson. Marcus watched this interaction, his anger temporarily forgotten. Mother, what are you doing? I'm getting to know my grandsons, Elizabeth replied simply. Something I should have been doing for the past 2 years. We don't even know for sure they're mine, Marcus said. Don't be ridiculous, Elizabeth replied. Look at them, Marcus. They're the spitting image of you at that age. I want a DNA test. Today, not tomorrow. Sarah shook her head. That's not possible. The lab is closed today. We'll go first thing tomorrow morning. Convenient, Marcus muttered. Robert Williams, who had been silent until now, spoke up. What exactly are you implying, Marcus? That Sarah somehow found 4 identical boys who look exactly like you to trick you? Listen to yourself. Marcus ran his hands through his hair in frustration. This is insane. My whole life just changed in 5 minutes. Welcome to parenthood, Jennifer Williams said dryly. James, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. What happens after the DNA test, assuming it confirms what we all already know? Everyone looked at Marcus, waiting for his answer. They're my sons, he said slowly. I have rights. Rights come with responsibilities, Sarah replied. Responsibilities you've never assumed. Because I didn't know they existed. And now you do, Sarah said. So what are you going to do about it, Marcus? Because these boys have lived their entire lives without you. They don't know you. They're happy and healthy and loved. What exactly are you planning to contribute? Marcus had no immediate answer. He looked at the 4 little boys, his flesh and blood, and felt a strange mix of emotions he couldn't identify. Slowly, he stood and walked toward them. The boys immediately grew quiet, watching this stranger approach. Marcus knelt down to their level. Hello, he said awkwardly. I'm Marcus. The boys stared at him with identical expressions of caution. None of them responded. You can call me, well, I guess you can call me Dad, Marcus continued, his voice less confident. Michael, the most serious of the 4, moved closer to Sarah. I want to go, Mommy, he said. The rejection stung Marcus more deeply than he expected. He stood up, trying to hide his hurt. They don't know you, Sarah explained, her voice softer now. You can't just walk in and expect them to accept you as their father. It will take time. Time I've already lost, Marcus said bitterly. Because of you. Ryan shook his head in disgust. Still blaming others, huh, Marcus? Still the victim? Ryan, Sarah cautioned. That's enough. Elizabeth had managed to engage all 4 boys in a drawing activity. They seemed more relaxed now, occasionally giggling as she praised their artwork. They're beautiful children, Sarah, Elizabeth said. You've done an amazing job with them. Thank you, Sarah replied. They're my whole world. Marcus watched this exchange with growing unease. The reality of the situation was finally sinking in. He had 4 sons, 4 children he had never known, and they wanted nothing to do with him. "I need to talk to Amber," he said suddenly. "I need to explain." "I don't think she wants to hear from you right now," James said gently. Her text was pretty clear. "This changes everything," Marcus muttered. "My whole life." "Our sons' lives haven't changed," Sarah pointed out. "They still need lunch and naps and stability. This revelation is a shock for you, but I won't let it disrupt their routine." Marcus looked at her with new understanding. "You really have done this all alone, haven't you?" "I've had help," Sarah said, nodding toward her parents. "But yes, I've raised them alone." "Why Boston?" Marcus asked. "Why move so far away?" "I needed a fresh start. Away from Atlanta, away from the gossip, away from the memories." Sarah's voice softened. "And I didn't want to be looking over my shoulder, wondering if I'd run into you." The boys had finished their drawings and were growing restless. Jennifer checked her watch. "They really do need lunch," she said, "and naps soon after." Sarah nodded. "We should go back to our hotel." "Wait," Marcus said quickly. "When will I see them again?" "Tomorrow." "At the DNA testing facility," Sarah replied. "After that, we can discuss how to move forward." "That's not enough time," Marcus protested. "They're my sons." "They're children who need stability and routine," Sarah corrected him. "Not a father who suddenly appears and makes demands." Elizabeth gathered the boys' drawings. "Marcus, Sarah is right. These boys need time. You can't rush this." Marcus looked at his mother in disbelief. "Whose side are you on?" "The boys," Elizabeth replied simply. "As you should be." As Sarah prepared to leave with the quadruplets, Marcus watched helplessly. He had planned this day for weeks, imagining Sarah's face as she saw his perfect life. Instead, he was the one left reeling. 9 o'clock tomorrow, Sarah reminded him. Atlanta Medical Center. Marcus nodded numbly. As the group filed out, Elizabeth lingered behind. "What am I supposed to do now?" Marcus asked her. "Amber won't talk to me. My sons don't know me. Everything is falling apart." Elizabeth touched his cheek gently. "For the first time in your life, Marcus, it's not about what you want. It's about what those boys need." After everyone left, Marcus stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by children's drawings. His phone buzzed again, a message from his law firm. "Need to discuss recent events. Please call office ASAP." Word had already spread. His perfect image was crumbling. In the hotel lobby, he passed a mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at him. In the span of 1 hour, he had become a father of 4 and potentially lost his wife, his reputation, and his carefully constructed life. He stepped outside into the bright Atlanta afternoon. Across the parking lot, he saw Sarah helping the quadruplets into a minivan. Elizabeth was taking photos with her phone, clearly treasuring these first moments with her grandchildren. Marcus watched from a distance, a stranger to his own sons. Marcus spent the night at the Grand Atlanta Hotel, alone with his thoughts. He barely slept, staring at the ceiling as images of 4 identical little faces kept appearing in his mind. When morning came, he showered, dressed in a clean suit, and drove to Atlanta Medical Center. The hospital parking lot was half empty at 8:45 in the morning. Marcus sat in his car, checking his appearance in the rearview mirror. Dark circles had formed under his eyes from lack of sleep. His phone had been filled with messages from Amber, from his law firm, from curious friends who had heard rumors about the baby shower disaster. He had ignored them all. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of his car and walked toward the hospital entrance. The automatic doors slid open, revealing the busy lobby. A sign pointed to the genetics department on the 3rd floor. When he arrived at the check-in desk, a nurse looked up from her computer. "I'm Marcus Johnson. I have an appointment at 9 o'clock. The nurse nodded. "Yes, Mr. Johnson. The Williams family is already here. Dr. Williamson will see you shortly." Marcus looked around the waiting area. Sarah sat in a chair reading a magazine. The quadruplets played with toys on a colorful mat in the corner. Ryan stood nearby, watching Marcus with a protective expression. "You're early," Sarah commented, not looking up from her magazine. "Couldn't sleep," Marcus replied. Before Sarah could respond, a door opened and a middle-aged woman in a white coat appeared. "Johnson Williams family? I'm Dr. Williamson. Please come with me." They followed the doctor to a private room. The quadruplets stayed close to Sarah, eyeing Marcus with curiosity and caution. "So I understand we're doing a paternity test today," Dr. Williamson said, looking between Sarah and Marcus. "That's correct," Sarah replied. Dr. Williamson smiled at the 4 little boys. "And these must be the young gentlemen in question. My goodness, they're identical." "Yes, they are," Sarah said proudly. Dr. Williamson turned to Marcus. "The procedure is very simple, Mr. Johnson. We'll take a cheek swab from you and from each of the boys. The results will be ready in 24 hours. "Can't it be done faster?" Marcus asked. "I've arranged for expedited processing," Sarah explained. "We'll have the results this afternoon." Dr. Williamson nodded. "That's correct. There's an additional fee, but the results will be ready by 4 o'clock today." Marcus went first, allowing the doctor to scrape the inside of his cheek with a long cotton swab. Then came the more challenging task of getting samples from the quadruplets. "Who wants to go first?" Dr. Williamson asked, kneeling to their level. The boys looked at Sarah uncertainly. "It's just like brushing your teeth," Sarah assured them. "It won't hurt at all." Michael, always the leader, stepped forward bravely. The doctor quickly took his sample. "That was very brave," Marcus said, attempting to connect with the boy. Michael just stared at him before retreating to Sarah's side. Matthew and Mark followed their brother's example, each submitting to the test without complaint. Malcolm, however, hung back. "It's okay, Malcolm," Sarah encouraged. "Look how brave your brothers were." Malcolm shook his head, burying his face against Sarah's leg. To everyone's surprise, Marcus knelt down and spoke gently to the boy. "Hey, buddy. Are you scared?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small toy car he had purchased in the hospital gift shop that morning. "I have this for you. You can hold it while the doctor does the test." Malcolm peeked at the shiny red car. After a moment's hesitation, he reached out and took it from Marcus's hand. "Thank you," he whispered. "You're welcome," Marcus replied, feeling an unexpected lump in his throat. With the car clutched in his hand, Malcolm allowed Dr. Williamson to take his sample. "Well done, everyone," the doctor said. "We'll call you when the results are ready." As they left the examination room, Malcolm continued to hold his new toy car. The other boys noticed and immediately wanted one too. "That's not fair," Matthew complained. "I want a car." Marcus looked at Sarah questioningly. She nodded slightly. "I have an idea," Marcus said. "How about we all go to the toy store? I can get cars for everyone." "Can we, Mommy?" Mark asked eagerly. Sarah hesitated. "We have some time before lunch. Please," the boys begged in unison. "Okay," Sarah agreed, "but just for a little while." Ryan frowned. "Are you sure about this, Sarah? I can come with you." "We'll be fine," Sarah assured him. "Why don't you go back to the hotel and rest? I'll call you if I need anything." After Ryan reluctantly left, Marcus, Sarah, and the quadruplets headed to a nearby toy store. The boys raced inside, their earlier caution forgotten in the excitement of seeing so many toys. "Stay where I can see you," Sarah called after them. Marcus stood awkwardly beside her. "Thank you for letting me do this." "They need to get to know you," Sarah replied. "This is a start." Inside the store, the boys quickly found the car section. Marcus helped each one pick out a different colored car. Michael chose blue, Matthew picked green, Mark selected yellow, and Malcolm, already attached to his red car, picked another red one for when this one breaks. As the boys played with their new toys, Marcus turned to Sarah. "Would you have lunch with me? I have questions." Sarah looked uncertain. "Please," Marcus added. "There's a restaurant in the park nearby. The boys can play on the playground after they eat." Sarah finally nodded. Okay. An hour later, they sat at an outdoor table at Centennial Olympic Park. The quadruplets had finished their chicken nuggets and were now playing on the nearby playground under Sarah's watchful eye. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus asked, finally asking the question that had kept him awake all night. Sarah sipped her water before answering. "After the way you left me? After you told everyone I was defective?" "I didn't." "You did," Sarah interrupted. "You told our friends, your colleagues, even your family that you left because I couldn't have children. Do you have any idea how that felt?" Marcus looked down at his untouched sandwich. "I was hurt. Disappointed." "And I wasn't?" Sarah's voice rose slightly. "It was my body failing us, Marcus. Not me. My body. And instead of supporting me through that pain, you abandoned me." "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. "When I found out the embryo transfer had worked, I was alone. 6 months after our divorce was final, you were already dating Amber by then. You could have told me anyway. Why? So you could swoop in and play the hero? Take credit for children you didn't want when we were creating them?" Sarah shook her head. "I was terrified, Marcus. Pregnant with what I thought was one baby, only to discover it was 4. 4 babies, and I was alone." Marcus watched his sons on the playground. They moved as a unit, each aware of where the others were at all times. "They're amazing." "Yes, they are," Sarah agreed. "And they're happy. They have a good life in Boston. Friends, family, stability. I want to be part of that life," Marcus said. Sarah studied his face. "Why? Because they're yours, or because you actually want to be their father?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Johnson? This is Dr. Williamson's office. Your test results are ready early. Can you come in?" "We'll be there in 20 minutes, Marcus replied, ending the call. He turned to Sarah. "They have the results." Sarah nodded, standing to call the boys. They came running, showing Marcus their toy cars. "Look how fast mine goes," Mark exclaimed, rolling his yellow car along the table. "Mine's faster," Matthew argued. For the first time, Marcus smiled genuinely. "They're all very fast." The drive back to the hospital was quiet. The boys fell asleep in their car seats, tired from playing. "They're good boys," Marcus said softly, glancing in the rearview mirror. "The best," Sarah agreed. At the hospital, Dr. Williamson met them in her office. The quadruplets were left with a nurse in a playroom down the hall. "Well, the results are definitive," Dr. Williamson said, opening a folder. "The probability of paternity is 99.9999%. These boys are definitely your biological sons, Mr. Johnson." Even though he had known it was true from the moment he saw them, hearing the scientific confirmation hit Marcus hard. He had 4 sons, 4 little boys who were his flesh and blood, who had been living in Boston for 2 years without him knowing they existed. "Thank you, Doctor," Sarah said, breaking the silence. As they left the office, Marcus stopped in the hallway. "I want to be their father, Sarah. Not just because they're mine biologically, but because they deserve a father who loves them." "Words are easy, Marcus," Sarah replied. "Actions are what matter now." "Tell me what to do," he said. "Tell me how to make this right." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. "First, you need to fix things with Amber. She's pregnant with your child too, a child who deserves your full attention. Then we can talk about your relationship with the boys." Marcus nodded slowly. "Can I see them again before you go back to Boston?" "We're here until Monday," Sarah said. "We can arrange something over the weekend." As they walked toward the playroom to collect the quadruplets, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from his law firm. "Partners meeting scheduled for Monday morning to discuss your future with the firm." The perfect life he had built was crumbling, but standing in that hospital hallway, watching his 4 sons play through the playroom window, Marcus wondered if what he was gaining might be worth more than what he was losing. Marcus stared at his phone screen for a long moment before placing it back in his pocket. The partners at his law firm wanted to discuss his future. That couldn't be good news. Everything okay? Sarah asked as they collected the quadruplets from the hospital playroom. Just work, Marcus replied vaguely. The DNA test results weighed heavily on his mind as he watched Sarah help the boys with their jackets. These were his sons, scientifically proven. 4 little boys with his eyes, his dimples, his DNA. Can I see you all tomorrow? Marcus asked as they walked toward the hospital exit. Maybe take the boys to the zoo. Sarah hesitated. The zoo might be overwhelming for a first real visit. How about the Children's Museum? It's smaller and they love it there. The museum sounds perfect, Marcus agreed quickly. What time? 10 in the morning. They need their afternoon naps. As Sarah loaded the boys into her rental minivan, Malcolm waved his red toy car at Marcus. Bye! The simple gesture made Marcus's throat tight. Bye, Malcolm. See you tomorrow. He stood in the hospital parking lot, watching the minivan disappear around the corner. Then he got into his own car and sat there, staring at nothing. His phone rang. The screen showed Amber's name. Taking a deep breath, Marcus answered. Amber, please let me explain. I'm sending someone to collect my things from the house, Amber interrupted. I'll be staying with my parents indefinitely. Amber, please, we need to talk about this. I've already talked to an attorney. Her voice was cold. Catherine Walsh. Perhaps you've heard of her? She specializes in high-profile divorces. Marcus felt like the air had been sucked from his lungs. Divorce? Amber, we're having a baby in 3 months. Yes, we are. And I intend to protect my daughter from a father who lies as easily as you do. I didn't lie. I didn't know about the boys. But you lied about Sarah, Amber replied. You told everyone she couldn't have children. You humiliated her. What kind of man does that to someone he once loved? Before Marcus could respond, Amber hung up. He drove back to the Grand Atlanta Hotel in a daze. In his room, he lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. His perfect life was disintegrating. His wife wanted a divorce. His law firm was concerned about his behavior. And somewhere across town, 4 little boys who shared his DNA were playing with toy cars he had bought them. Marcus picked up his phone and called James. I need a drink, he said when James answered. I'll meet you in the hotel bar in 20 minutes, James replied. Across town, in a modern office building in downtown Atlanta, Amber Reynolds sat across from attorney Catherine Walsh. Despite being 6 months pregnant, Amber looked composed in her stylish maternity dress. Only the redness around her eyes revealed her emotional state. So you're 6 months pregnant, and you just discovered your husband has 4 children from his previous marriage? Catherine asked, taking notes on her tablet. Amber nodded. Children he claims he didn't know about. And do you believe him? I don't know what to believe anymore, Amber admitted. The Marcus I thought I married wouldn't have humiliated his ex-wife the way he did. He wouldn't have invited her to our baby shower to hurt her. Catherine nodded sympathetically. Pregnancy complicates divorce proceedings, but it doesn't make them impossible. We can begin protecting your interests immediately. What do you mean by protecting my interests? Financial security for you and your daughter, or custody arrangements, division of assets? Catherine leaned forward. Has Marcus shown any violent tendencies? No, never, Amber said quickly. He's not violent, just cruel, calculated. Catherine made another note. That's good to know. Now, let's talk about what you want. Do you want to pursue divorce immediately, or would you prefer to wait until after your daughter is born? Amber placed her hand protectively over her belly. I need time to think. This is all happening so fast. Of course, Catherine replied. Take your time, but in the meantime, I recommend we freeze your joint bank accounts and document everything. If Marcus is capable of the behavior you've described, who knows what else he might do? At the Reynolds family home in Buckhead, Amber sorted through the items from her baby shower. Pink blankets, tiny clothes, and stuffed animals covered her childhood bed. She picked up a small pink teddy bear and hugged it to her chest. Eleanor knocked gently before entering. "Darling, are you okay? Can I get you anything?" "I'm fine, Mom," Amber said, though her voice betrayed her emotions. "Just thinking." Eleanor sat beside her daughter. "About the divorce?" "About everything. The baby, Marcus, those little boys." Amber looked at her mother. "4 little boys, Mom. They're so beautiful, and they look exactly like him." "Do you think he really didn't know about them?" "I believe that part," Amber said, "but it doesn't change the fact that he lied about Sarah. He told everyone she was defective because she couldn't have children. What kind of man does that?" Eleanor took her daughter's hand. "Not the kind you want raising your daughter." In the hotel bar, Marcus nursed his second drink. James sat across from him, watching with concern. "She wants a divorce," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "Amber, she's already talked to Catherine Walsh." "The divorce attorney?" James winced. "That's serious. Everything is falling apart." Marcus stared into his glass. "Amber hates me. The boys don't know me, and the firm wants to discuss my future on Monday." Word spread quickly about what happened at the shower, James admitted. "Several clients have called, asking to be reassigned to different partners." "Great. So I'm losing my wife, my reputation, and possibly my job." Marcus drained his glass. "All because Sarah decided to show up with those boys." James shook his head. "No, Marcus. This is happening because of choices you made. Sarah didn't create this situation." Marcus glared at his friend. "Whose side are you on?" "Yours, always, but that means telling you the truth." James leaned forward. "You're at a crossroads. You can keep blaming others for your problems, or you can take responsibility and try to fix what can be fixed." "What can be fixed? Amber won't even talk to me. So focus on your sons. Be the father they deserve." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know how to be a father, especially to boys who don't know me." "Then learn," James said simply. Later that evening, Marcus found himself driving to Sarah's hotel. He sat in his car in the parking lot watching the entrance. What was he doing here? What did he expect to accomplish? After 20 minutes, he got out of his car and walked into the lobby. He approached the front desk. "I need to speak with Sarah Williams," he said to the clerk. The clerk called Sarah's room, spoke briefly, then hung up. "I'm sorry, sir. Ms. Williams doesn't wish to see anyone right now." "Tell her it's important," Marcus insisted. "Tell her it's about the boys." The clerk made another call, then shook his head. "She says to contact her tomorrow at the museum, as planned." Frustrated, Marcus turned to leave and nearly collided with Ryan. "What are you doing here, Marcus?" Ryan asked, his stance defensive. "I need to talk to Sarah about the boys. You'll see her tomorrow, at the museum, as planned." Marcus stepped closer. "They're my sons. I have rights." "Rights come with responsibilities," Ryan replied evenly. "Responsibilities you haven't earned yet." "I didn't even know they existed until yesterday." "And whose fault is that?" Ryan's voice hardened. "You left Sarah when she needed you most. You humiliated her. You destroyed her self-worth. Now you want instant access to children you didn't help create, didn't help carry, and didn't help raise." A hotel security officer approached. "Is there a problem here, gentlemen?" "No problem," Ryan said. "Mr. Johnson was just leaving." Marcus looked from Ryan to the security officer, then back again. "Fine. I'll see Sarah tomorrow." As he walked back to his car, Marcus's phone rang. It was his mother, Elizabeth. "Marcus? Where are you?" "In my car," he replied. "Why?" "I just had a wonderful visit with Sarah and the boys," Elizabeth said, her voice warm with excitement. "They're incredible, Marcus. So bright and sweet." Marcus frowned. "You saw them?" "When?" "This evening. I brought them gifts, books, and stuffed animals. Malcolm showed me his new car. The red one you bought him. You didn't tell me you were visiting them. I didn't think I needed your permission to see my grandsons, Elizabeth replied. Sarah was very gracious. She let me stay for dinner. I took so many photos. Marcus felt a stab of jealousy. His own mother had spent more time with his sons than he had. I want to see them, he said. You will. Tomorrow, at the museum. Elizabeth paused. Marcus, these boys need stability. Sarah has given them that. Please don't disrupt their lives because of your own needs. What's that supposed to mean? It means think about what's best for them, not just what you want. Elizabeth's voice softened. They're wonderful children, Marcus. Sarah has done an amazing job. After ending the call, Marcus sat in his car, feeling more alone than he ever had. His mother was right. Sarah had given the boys stability and love. What could he offer them? His phone buzzed with an email from his law firm. The subject line read, "Concerns about recent behavior." Marcus opened it to find a message from the senior partners expressing serious concerns about recent events and their potential impact on the firm's reputation. The message ended with, "We value your contributions, but must prioritize the firm's standing in the community." Translation: his job was in danger. Marcus leaned his head against the steering wheel. In the span of 24 hours, he had gained 4 sons and was on the verge of losing everything else: his wife, his career, his reputation. Tomorrow at the Children's Museum, he would have another chance with the boys. One chance to begin building a relationship with 4 children who had lived their entire lives without him. He started his car and drove back to his hotel, alone with his thoughts and regrets. The Children's Museum visit went better than Marcus expected. The quadruplets warmed to him slightly as he helped them build towers in the construction zone and watched model trains zoom around tracks. Malcolm even took his hand when crossing from one exhibit to another, a small gesture that meant everything to Marcus. 1 week later, Marcus sat in attorney Gabrielle Martinez's downtown Atlanta office. The walls were lined with law books and framed diplomas. A large window offered a view of the city skyline. Sarah sat in the chair beside him, reviewing the papers in front of her. She looked professional in her blue blouse and black pants. "These terms are fair," Attorney Martinez said, pointing to the document. "Ms. Williams is requesting supervised visitation starting with short periods, gradually increasing as the boys become more comfortable with you." Marcus nodded, reading through the agreement. "And I'd need to take parenting classes?" "Yes," Sarah replied. "It's standard for parents who haven't been involved in their children's lives." Marcus wanted to argue that he hadn't been given the chance to be involved, but he held his tongue. Fighting wouldn't help build a relationship with his sons. "The financial support is substantial," Martinez continued, turning to the next page. Marcus scanned the numbers. The amount was large but fair considering there were 4 boys. "I can manage this. You'll also need to establish a college fund for each boy," Sarah added. "Already done," Marcus said. "I set it up yesterday." Sarah looked surprised. "Oh, thank you." "They're my sons," Marcus said simply. "I want to provide for them." After reviewing the rest of the agreement, Marcus signed each page. The pen felt heavy in his hand. This document made everything official. He was the father of 4 two-year-old boys who barely knew him. "When can I see them again?" Marcus asked as he signed the final page. "They're flying back to Boston tomorrow," Sarah replied. "But I've arranged for us to return in 2 weeks for your first official supervised visit." 2 weeks? Marcus couldn't hide his disappointment. "They need stability, Marcus. This is already a big change for them." Marcus nodded, understanding but not happy about it. "I appreciate you being reasonable about this. I know I don't deserve it." Sarah gathered her papers. "This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what's best for the boys." Across town, Amber sat in Dr. Lewis's examination room, her pregnant belly exposed as the doctor applied gel for the ultrasound. Blood pressure is a bit elevated today, Dr. Lewis commented, moving the ultrasound wand across Amber's stomach. Have you been experiencing stress? Amber gave a short, humorless laugh. You could say that. Dr. Lewis nodded sympathetically. I heard about what happened at your shower. I'm sorry you're going through this. On the screen, the outline of a baby appeared. Dr. Lewis pointed to the image. Your daughter looks perfectly healthy. Strong heartbeat. Good size. Amber's eyes filled with tears as she watched her baby move on the screen. At least something in my life is going right. After the appointment, Amber drove to her parents' Buckhead mansion where she had been staying since the baby shower disaster. Her childhood bedroom had been transformed into a temporary nursery with a crib and changing table. She sat on the edge of her bed, looking at the ultrasound pictures. Her daughter, her beautiful, innocent daughter who would be born into a mess. Eleanor knocked gently on the door. How was your appointment? Good. The baby's healthy. Amber handed her mother the ultrasound pictures. Eleanor smiled. She's beautiful. She sat beside her daughter. Have you thought about names? Lily, Amber said softly. I want to name her Lily. That's lovely. Eleanor patted her daughter's hand. And have you decided what to do about Marcus? Amber sighed. Catherine says we can start divorce proceedings now, but it might be easier to wait until after Lily is born. Whatever you decide, we'll support you. I know, Mom. Amber placed her hand on her belly as the baby kicked. I just hate that Lily will grow up with divorced parents, and now 4 half-brothers she never knew existed. Half-brothers who will adore her, Eleanor said gently. Children aren't responsible for adult problems, dear. That afternoon, Marcus had his first official supervised visit with the quadruplets at a children's play center in downtown Atlanta. The colorful space was filled with climbing equipment, slides, and ball pits. Elizabeth came with him, partly to ease the transition, and partly because she couldn't bear to miss an opportunity to see her grandsons. Remember, don't push too hard, Elizabeth advised as they waited in the lobby. Let them come to you. Marcus nodded nervously. He had purchased 4 identical stuffed elephants as gifts, one in a different color for each boy. When Sarah arrived with the quadruplets, the boys immediately ran to Elizabeth. Grandma! They shouted, hugging her legs. Hello, my darlings, Elizabeth said, kneeling to hug them properly. Marcus stood awkwardly nearby, holding the gift bag. Hi, boys. The quadruplets regarded him cautiously. They recognized him from the museum but still viewed him as a stranger. I brought you something, Marcus said, pulling out the stuffed elephants. The boys looked to Sarah, who nodded her permission. They approached Marcus cautiously, each accepting an elephant. Thank you, they said in unison, clearly well-trained in manners. You're welcome, Marcus replied. Would you like to play on the slides? Malcolm, who had warmed to Marcus the most, nodded. The big slide. Marcus looked at Sarah, who nodded her permission. He took Malcolm's hand and walked him to the tallest slide in the play area. The other boys watched, then gradually joined in. By the end of the hour, all 4 boys were comfortable enough to let Marcus help them through the obstacle course and build towers with the foam blocks. As they were leaving, Malcolm turned to Marcus. Are you coming to our house? Marcus knelt down to the boy's level. Not today, buddy, but I'll see you again soon. Promise? Malcolm asked. The simple question hit Marcus hard. I promise. Later that day, Sarah sat at an outdoor table at Piedmont Park, waiting. She checked her watch, wondering if this meeting was a mistake. Amber appeared, walking slowly with her pregnant belly leading the way. She wore a simple sundress and looked tired. Thank you for coming, Sarah said as Amber lowered herself into the chair. I almost didn't, Amber admitted, but I need answers. A server brought them iced teas, then left them alone. Did he know? Amber asked directly. Did Marcus know about the boys before the shower? No, Sarah replied honestly. He had no idea. Amber nodded, seeming relieved but still troubled. Why didn't you tell him? After the way he left me? After he told everyone I was broken because I couldn't have children? Sarah shook her head. I didn't feel safe telling him. I understand that, Amber said softly. But why come to the shower? Why not just call him or send a letter? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I received his invitation with that handwritten note. Come see what a real family looks like. After everything he put me through, it felt right to show him his sons in that moment. To hurt him, you mean? Yes, Sarah admitted. To hurt him. I'm not proud of that, but it's the truth. Amber took a sip of her tea. I'm having a girl, a daughter. Congratulations, Sarah said sincerely. I'm terrified of raising her alone. Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. This is the name of a support group for single mothers in Atlanta. They helped me when I first found out I was having 4 babies. Amber took the card, surprised. Thank you. We're both victims of Marcus's selfishness, Sarah said. That doesn't mean we need to be enemies. At Peachtree Financial, Marcus cleared out his desk. The partners had placed him on extended leave after several clients requested reassignment. The message was clear. His reputation had become a liability. James helped him pack his personal items into boxes. I'm sorry it came to this, James said, wrapping a framed diploma in bubble wrap. It's my own fault, Marcus admitted, surprising his friend with his self-awareness. I made this mess. Not all of it, James said. Sarah should have told you about the boys. Marcus shook his head. After the way I treated her, I understand why she didn't. He picked up a photo of himself and Amber on their wedding day. I've lost everything that mattered to me. My wife, my job, my reputation. Not everything, James corrected. You have 4 amazing sons who barely know me, who live in Boston, who I'll see occasionally under supervision. For now, James said, but you're taking the right steps. The parenting classes, the child support, the supervised visits. You're showing them, and Sarah, that you're serious. Marcus nodded, placing the wedding photo in the box. I am serious. Those boys deserve better than what I've been. That evening, Sarah's parents hosted a family dinner at their hotel suite. Room service had delivered a feast, and the quadruplets were excited about eating hotel food. Elizabeth joined them, bringing more gifts for the boys, books about Atlanta to remember their trip. These are wonderful, Elizabeth, Jennifer Williams said, examining one of the books. The boys love when we read to them. I'm happy to be part of their lives, Elizabeth replied, helping Malcolm with his napkin. They're such wonderful children. Ryan looked around the table. Notice who's not here? Ryan, Sarah warned. It's true, Ryan insisted. Marcus isn't here because he hasn't earned his place yet. Trust has to be earned. Robert Williams nodded in agreement. That's right, but he's taking steps in the right direction. The agreement we signed today is fair, Sarah said. He's providing financial support. He's agreed to parenting classes. He's accepted supervised visitation. Do you think he'll follow through? Jennifer asked. Sarah considered the question. I think he might. Today at the play center, he was different, less focused on his rights and more concerned with connecting with the boys. Elizabeth smiled. Malcolm asked if Marcus was coming to their house. He's beginning to accept him. They all are, Sarah admitted, and that's good. They deserve to know their father. As long as he deserves to know them, Ryan added. Later, after the boys were asleep in the adjoining room, Sarah stepped onto the hotel balcony for some fresh air. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus. Thank you for today. I know I have a long way to go, but I'm committed to being the father they deserve. Sarah looked at the message for a long time before responding. Actions speak louder than words. Show them who you can be. She looked out at the Atlanta skyline, thinking about the changes of the past week. Tomorrow they would return to Boston to their normal life, but now that life would include Marcus, for better or worse. In her hotel room, Sarah found a small package that had been delivered earlier. Inside were 4 identical teddy bears, one for each boy. The note read, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness or a place in their lives yet, but I'm going to spend every day trying to become the father they deserve." Sarah placed the 4 teddy bears beside her sleeping sons, tucking each one under a small arm. The note from Marcus remained in her hand. Perhaps people really could change, she thought. Perhaps time and consequences could teach what words alone could not. 2 years later, "Higher, Daddy! Make it higher!" Michael shouted as Marcus stretched a blue blanket across 2 chairs in his Cambridge living room. "If we make it any higher, the whole fort might fall down," Marcus replied, carefully securing the blanket with books. "We can fix it if it falls," Malcolm said confidently, crawling inside the makeshift structure with his 3 brothers. Marcus watched his 4 four-year-old sons arrange pillows inside their blanket fort. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of his modest, colonial-style home, just 3 blocks from Sarah's house. The walls were covered with framed children's artwork and photos of the quadruplets at various ages. 2 years had changed everything. After months of supervised visits, parenting classes, and weekly video calls, Marcus had made the decision to leave Atlanta behind. He'd taken a position at a smaller investment firm in Boston, sacrificing prestige for flexibility and location. Being near his sons had become his priority. In the kitchen, Sarah arranged candles on a birthday cake while her husband David Chen unpacked paper plates and napkins. 4 candles for 4 years, Sarah said, stepping back to examine her work. The chocolate cake was decorated with toy cars, still the boys' favorite. "They're so excited about the party," David said, wrapping his arms around Sarah's waist. The simple gold wedding band on his finger caught the light. They had married last year in a small ceremony with the quadruplets as ring-bearers. Sarah leaned against him, watching Marcus play with the boys. "It's still strange sometimes," she admitted, "seeing him with them like this, being friends." "You did that," David reminded her. "You made it possible for them to have their father in their lives." "We all did," Sarah corrected him, "you included. Taking on 4 ready-made sons isn't something every man would do." David smiled. "Best decision I ever made." The doorbell rang and Sarah went to answer it. Amber Reynolds stood on the porch holding the hand of a beautiful 2-year-old girl with blonde curls. "Sorry we're late," Amber said. "Someone couldn't decide which shoes to wear." "I wanted pink ones," little Lily announced, pointing to her sparkly pink sneakers. "And they're perfect," Sarah assured her, kneeling to the child's level. "The boys are playing in the fort with their dad. Would you like to join them?" Lily nodded eagerly and ran toward the living room as soon as her coat was removed. "How are you?" Sarah asked Amber as they hung up coats in the entryway. "Good," Amber replied. "The interior design business is picking up. I just got a contract for a whole house in Beacon Hill." After her divorce from Marcus was finalized, Amber had surprised everyone by moving to Boston. Her college friend Rachel lived there and offered childcare help while Amber established her design business. The initial awkwardness between Amber and Sarah had gradually transformed into mutual respect and eventually friendship. In the living room, Lily ran straight to Marcus. "Daddy, look at my shoes!" Marcus scooped her up. "Very pink, very beautiful." The quadruplets peeked out from their fort. "Lily," they called, "come see our fort." Marcus set his daughter down and she crawled into the fort with her half-brothers. Their laughter filled the room. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Elizabeth Johnson, flying in from Atlanta as she did every month to see her grandchildren. Behind her stood Marcus's father William with his new wife Patricia. "Grandma!" the boys shouted, abandoning their fort to rush toward Elizabeth. "My beautiful boys!" Elizabeth exclaimed, kneeling to hug them all at once. "Happy birthday!" William Johnson, who had initially struggled to accept the quadruplets, awkwardly held out a large wrapped package. "This is from Grandpa," he said formally. Marcus watched his father interact with the boys. Their relationship had improved slowly over the past 2 years, though William still seemed uncomfortable with the situation. More guests arrived: James Wilson with his fiancée Ashley, Ryan with his girlfriend Megan, and Sarah's parents, Robert and Jennifer. The house filled with conversation and laughter. As Sarah arranged presents on a side table, Amber approached her. "I brought these for you," Amber said, handing Sarah a small envelope. Inside were professional photos of Lily. "For your family album," Amber explained. "I know you keep one with all the children." "Thank you," Sarah said, genuinely touched. "She's beautiful." "She looks like my mother," Amber said with a smile. "But she has Marcus's stubbornness." "Don't they all?" Sarah replied, and both women laughed. In the backyard, Marcus helped David set up the grill for hot dogs. The two men had developed an unexpectedly comfortable relationship. "Sarah said you got that promotion," Marcus commented, arranging charcoal. "Chief of Pediatrics," David confirmed. "More administrative work, but better hours." "That's great," Marcus said sincerely. "The boys love having you home more." "They talk about your weekends all the time," David replied, "especially that camping trip last month." Marcus smiled at the memory. 4 boys in 1 tent was ambitious. "Next time we should take them together," David suggested. "Safety in numbers." "I'd like that," Marcus said, surprised by how much he meant it. Back inside, the children played a game of musical chairs orchestrated by Ryan. Adult conversations happened in small groups, Elizabeth and Jennifer discussing a new recipe, William awkwardly chatting with Robert about golf, James telling Amber about his upcoming wedding. Marcus stepped onto the back porch for a moment of quiet. Sarah joined him, handing him a glass of lemonade. "Quite a party," she said, looking out at the small backyard where David was now flipping hot dogs. "Hard to believe they're 4 already," Marcus replied. "I missed so much." "But you're here now," Sarah said. "That's what matters to them." Marcus nodded, watching their sons through the window as they chased each other around the living room. "When I sent you that invitation 2 years ago, I wanted to hurt you." "I know," Sarah said quietly. "I lost everything I thought was important," Marcus continued. "My big house, my prestigious job, my trophy wife." He shook his head. "I was such an ass." "Yes, you were," Sarah agreed, but there was no bitterness in her voice. "Now I have a smaller house, a less impressive job, and my life revolves around school drop-offs and bedtime stories." Marcus smiled. "And I've never been happier." "Do you regret it?" Sarah asked. "Sending that invitation?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I regret the man I was when I sent it. But without that invitation, I might never have known my sons." He looked at her. "Would you ever have told me about them?" "Eventually," Sarah admitted, "when they started asking questions about their father. But I might have waited too long. This was better, I think. For them." Inside, Ryan called out that it was time for the cake. Marcus and Sarah rejoined the party, where David had arranged the quadruplets in front of their cake. Lily insisted on standing with them, and no one objected. "Make a wish," Jennifer instructed as the candles were lit. The quadruplets looked at each other, communicating silently as they often did. Then they all leaned forward together and blew out the candles in perfect synchronization. The assembled guests applauded. Marcus found himself standing between Amber and Sarah, watching all 5 of his children enjoying the moment. "What do you think they wished for?" Amber asked. "Probably more cars," Marcus replied with a smile. Sarah shook her head. "No, look at them." The boys were laughing, showing Lily how to cut the cake. They looked completely content, completely secure. "They don't need to wish for anything," Sarah said softly. "They have everything they need." As plates of cake were passed around, Marcus watched the room full of people, his children, his ex-wives, his parents, his friends. 2 years ago, he had invited Sarah to see what a real family looks like. Looking at the gathering now, complex, unconventional, but bound by love for the children at its center, He realized that Sarah had indeed shown him exactly that. Not the perfect image he had once chased, but this messy, forgiving group who had learned to put the children's needs before their own pride. "Daddy, you need cake," Malcolm called, holding up a plate with an enormous slice. "Coming, buddy," Marcus replied, joining his son at the table. As he sat surrounded by his children, Marcus caught Sarah's eye across the room. She smiled at him, not the smile of a woman who had won or lost, but of a mother who had done right by her children. He nodded back, a silent acknowledgement of how far they had come. The conversation and laughter continued around them, a family built not from perfect plans, but from forgiveness and second chances. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen